Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a big Tuesday, 1 week away from spring football Tuesday, Cody, and we put it on the thumbnail. All the talk's going to be about Arch Manning, but I think that there are three guys that are much more important than he is.
I don't think that there should be any conversation around Arch Manning, but there will be because it's just natural that the quarterback gets the most of the conversation. But I think, as you allude to, everything else on the Texas offense needs to be conversed about, whether it's center, left guard, right tackle, whatever happens with the receiver position, with Wingo coming off of LASIK and DeAndre Moore missing practices and the running back room just being a complete toss-up outside of Wisner. Like, it's everything but Arch Manning needs to be what is the forefront conversation.
I'm not saying he's not the most important player on the team. He might be one of the most important players in all of college football. But I don't think it's important. I'm not sure it's an important discussion point because whenever I don't know about you, but I wrote about this today, and we're about to get Arch Madness, man. We're about to get especially with Texas starting its spring football so late and them having it go basically, it won't end until the weekend of the draft. And so it's like at a certain point, other teams will stop having their spring football propaganda showing up on various X timelines and things like that. And it'll be Texas, and there'll be just a lot of interest in Arch Manning and how he's looking and all that stuff. And look, rightfully so. And, we'll get asked, or Anwar will get asked, or people will get asked to go on some of these shows in other markets, and all they're going to want to talk about is Arch Manning and stuff. The fact of the matter is, with me, I've seen Arch Manning. I've seen the attributes that he has. I've seen him put those attributes to work, not only in practice settings, but in spring game settings, and when real bullets are flying, winning actual football games for the University of Texas, and showing off like a really vast skill set. And if we're being honest, if you're a Texas football fan, I'd say 50% of you at some point last year would have said, God, you might have muttered under your breath at some point. We didn't like a throw that Quinn Ewers just made. Let's just say, like, why don't they put Arch in there? That it's like
I think people did a little more than mutter under their breath.
Well, there might be some people in positions where you don't want to, maybe in positions like ours where you don't want to rile up the fans and everything like that, where you might have to mutter it under your breath. But I feel like that's probably something that was pretty common in the various heated moments among fans and analysts of the team and stuff, right? And so with Arch Manning, when I came in and said, I don't feel like he's important. Of course he's important. He's the infinity stone of the whole team, right? He's the centerpiece. What is an infinity stone? I just kind of said that. That just came out of nowhere.
Infinity stone, I believe, is the last stone on Thanos's thing. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he puts the infinity stone right here, and it kind of brings everything together.
Oh,
so it's proper. Proper utilization.
Perfect.
Never watched it, but how I infer the GIF, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So so he's the infinity stone. With that being said, you got to keep him protected, right?
Yeah.
And if you're gonna worry about anything next year, you're not allowed to worry about Arch. It just isn't allowed. Arch is going to be good, but he needs to stay protected. And I don't think it's worthwhile to worry about Trevor Gooseby or to worry about DJ Campbell on the offensive line, right? What you can say about
you don't think you should worry about DJ Campbell?
No, I think what you can say about DJ Campbell is that, okay, well, we both agree Gooseby, right? If he plays in 2025 like he did in 2024, he's probably going to the NFL. We've had Scott.
If he plays like he did last year, he's 100% gone to the NFL.
Okay. As far as zero questions on Gooseby, and I think the only question that you can really have about DJ Campbell is whether he'll finally truly live up to the 5-star status that he had coming in.
I would love to see some 4-star output, to be honest with you.
I mean, it wasn't like DJ. You think DJ Campbell's bad? I mean, I don't think he's bad.
Well, I think your grades would tell us he's not great.
What my grades say on DJ Campbell is that he's an above average starter, and if everybody played like DJ Campbell on the whole offensive line, then Arch Manning and Sark would be cooking with peanut oil next year, right? You don't have to have everybody play like Kelvin Banks or like Cam at times last year. You don't have to have everybody play like that. Now, if you have people all playing like DJ Campbell and you got one guy that's playing like a real slouch, that's your weakest link, that can be a problem, right? That can be a problem. But if everybody played at that level, if you just look, so if you look at the, I'll just pull up the deep dig grading scale, and it's like his grades.
I don't want sophomore DJ Campbell to infiltrate your brain, but this last year was not. I mean, I remember vividly having conversations here with you about it. Like, they were splitting reps with Cole Hudson. Like, I just don't. I don't think if you get last year's output all season from Campbell and everybody else, you're going to be that happy with it. If you told me today, truth serum, that everybody on the offensive line outside of Trevor, Goosby's just Goosby. He does exactly what he did last year. And then out of every other position, we get exactly what DJ Campbell gave us last year. I'm not sure I'm as happy as or believe that we're entirely seeing this Texas offense cook with peanut oil. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe sophomore year DJ Campbell. Okay, you can sell me on that.
I'm only going by what my system says, right? And so this is the deep dig system. I'm just going by what it says. I kind of think by now I can just go by what my eyes see, but I always fall back to the system because this is what I've done since 2013, and this is how I stack these guys up as far as historical context. So if you look at the deep dig grading scale, as far as now, these are the grades that I give to players. And these grades are based on grading every single snap from every single game, and the grades are given by game, right? So it kind of goes down to guys can grade in like the high 60s, but basically anything under like right at 74.5, you're teetering on acceptable play, right? When you're 75, that's just baseline competency. That's like I give you a 0 for every snap. I go that wasn't good, that wasn't bad, based on the concept that I've identified here and what I know about how it's coached by Coach Flood, right? Which admittedly, it's minuscule what I know about offensive line play compared to Coach Flood. But I've watched him coach. I've watched him coach a bunch. I've watched a ton of his coaching clinics. I can identify the concepts. And once I identify the concepts, it's kind of easy to identify the assignment and say like, well, was that a good rep? Was that an above average rep? Was that an insanely good rep? Was that the best rep that I could imagine? Was that the worst rep that I could imagine? Was that a kind of bad rep, but not really bad? Was that a pretty bad rep? Right. I do that for every single snap for every single player. And when guys grade out right here in this area, like from 76 to 79, the way I have it defined is games in this area represent good to very good Division I play, and teams with an entire offensive line operating in this area over the course of the game should experience no detriment to offensive game plan due to the offensive line. Right? Last year, DJ Campbell had four games at 80 or above, where we started looking at guys like players with games in this area are likely to be NFL draft prospects. Right? That's it right at 80. And then you get up here, it's like you have to like 83s, 84s, all the way down to 81s. It's like these guys, they're going to have games that where they'll, if they have games in this area, they're almost always going to be drafted. And some will be drafted highly, depending on physical attributes, measurables, character, combine results, etc. Some players will grade out in this area on film as simply outstanding college players, while NFL interest might not necessarily be there as much as with others due to lack of concrete measurable attributes. That's like the Parker Braun. Right? Really good college football player, but he's just, his arms are too short. He's too small. You know, he wasn't ever going to make it as an NFL player. You get up here to the 87s, 86s and stuff. I think the highest I ever got on Kelvin Banks was at 80, right? Just under 86. Right. And he said that, what the deep dig says is players who have games in this area are assured of being drafted very highly. And this is the guys like, this is the Jake Matthews. Who Jake Matthews just signed another extension, by the way.
He's the only guy left on that little list you got there, Zach, after Zach Martin retired.
Yeah. What did Joel Bitonio retire last year?
I think Bitonio, yeah, I think Joel Bitonio.
He was hurt the year before last. I think he officially retired last year. But well, it goes to show. I mean, I started doing this a while back, right, for the NFL draft stuff. But so if this is where if everybody on the whole offensive line operated there, I mean, if you look at the grades by week, yes, DJ Campbell last year was among the lowest, right? I'm not sure if it's showing on the screen that I just switched it over.
Yep.
But it's like, but he graded out at an average grade of a 78.46 and a median of 78.33. So sort of near the top of that area where if everybody played like that. So even though relative to the others, he wasn't quite as good. Remember, this was the offensive line that finished second in Joe Moore Award voting. He played fine. I'm not worried about him.
All right, I'll take your word for it then.
I think that the three guys that we need to discuss are Cole Hudson, Neto Umeozulu, and Brandon Baker. Because that's like three total. If we think that Trevor Gooseby is locked in at left tackle, which of course he is, and DJ Campbell's locked in at right guard, which of course he is, that Cole Hudson slides to center, Neto Umeozulu fills in for Hayden Connor at left guard, and at right tackle you got to get Brandon Baker in there. To 5-star stud, sad as a freshman. Now's his time. Very athletic, but completely unproven. And we can go through them. We can go through them what we think one by one, or we can just talk about the group as a whole. How do you think we should attack it?
I think we just attack it one by one, position by position, and I think you start inside of Gooseby. I mean, we talked about this really conversation began. I don't even know what it was, maybe a month ago now, when Nato's name kind of reared its head of the ability of him potentially playing. Because I remember just as the season kind of came to an end, it was like, well, are we ever going to see Neto? Is Neto ever going to see the starting lineup? Is he ever going to see the day of light? And, there was conversations about Pat Coogan from Notre Dame, and conversations of, who was that other guard?
There were two from Notre Dame, but one wasn't any good. Coogan was better.
But who was the one that wasn't from Notre Dame? There was one more guy that they were.
Is it a Northwestern guy?
No, Emmanuel Pregnon that went to Oregon, right?
Yeah,
and they were obviously fishing, and I'm gonna continue, I think, with the Neto thought, and even with Cole Hudson to a certain extent, to keep coming back to that is the Pat Coogan thing and the Emmanuel Pregnon thing. We know both of those guys got some money. Pregnon goes to Oregon. I think, if I remember right, Coogan went to either Indiana. I think he went to Indiana, and both guys that Texas could have 100% gotten. And we both believe, and we talked about it when that was happening, that those would have been improvements to this offensive line. And, I considered Coogan kind of a glue, or the shoelace to the offense. It kind of just brings everything together and tightens it up. And Texas moved forward. And I know we do have a spring portal window that'll happen as soon as the spring is basically over, like the last week there before the NFL draft. And if they make a move, they make a move. But at least ways they're showing confidence in Neto, in particularly, to go into the spring practices and the spring camp in competitions with, Jaden Chapman, who we expect to be the guy right behind him, and then a couple of freshmen. So there's at least some belief. And here's the thing, man. We just talked about it. You talked about Kyle Flood. We talked about Trevor Gooseby, the growth of guys like Christian Jones and Cam Williams. And it's all hinges back to Kyle Flood. And if Kyle Flood believes, then you ain't really got to sell me very much on believing and giving a guy a chance.
So let me just ask you this. Because there's some things there were some reactions to my column today that people had on the site, and some were fans, some would catch them. And one of the reactions Ketchum had was, I'd said, look, whenever Neto came in, and we'll go over exactly his pathway to where he is right now. And it's been a rocky pathway, right? But I think that it's only fair to say that, just because he came in the same class as guys who have already played and played a lot, right? I mean, Kelvin Banks has already come and gone from the program. So is Cam Williams, right? He came in with those guys.
Yep.
He came in with Cole Hudson, who's played a lot, right? Um, if I think if you want to be fair, though, you can say that you can understand that right now it's now or never. I mean, it just is. Now is his time. If he doesn't do it now, it's not going to happen, right? But also, it if he was a great prospect that needed development, who this year we might see the fruits of it, right? I think it's fair to the guy to say you can give him a little bit of grace for not cracking the starting lineup and staying as a core second teamer because Hayden Connor was did Hayden Connor. It wasn't like that would be an easy guy to take over for. Ketch seems to think that he doesn't necessarily think that Hayden Connor being in front of him is a very good excuse for him not to have broken out by now.
Well, Hayden Connor's gonna be on the fringe of getting drafted, but he's still a big body guy, smart guy that, when you're in the program for long enough, you learn enough. And sometimes it doesn't. I mean, here's the thing we also have to realize is that Texas hasn't been this Texas for the last 10 years. I think when you look at a Hayden Connor, you may be able to have that opinion of saying, Hayden Connor, he's not that big of a stepping stone, right? He's not. Well, here's the thing. He's not Tyler Booker, but also Tyler Booker at Alabama is a guy that's, in a program that's been elite for going on 20 years. So you kind of can rationalize it. If Hayden Connor's at Alabama, that's been Alabama for the last 20 years, you can go, that's an underwhelming left guard for Alabama, right? And it's underwhelming left guard for Texas, but we're in like year 2 of being a top-notch program. I get the point of view, and I hope that made sense the way I explained that. I hope I get the point of view he has, but also I think it's just like on the brink of cutting through that kind of ceiling and putting that kind of situation behind yourself.
So great prospect, needed development. One of the best developers in the game. Kyle Flood is there coaching him. He's had him for 3 years now. And that's the good news, right? The bad news is that every time we've seen him play all the way until the 2024 season, and that brought better news, but all the way up until then, he was bad, right? I mean, 24 snaps as a true freshman in 2022, he didn't play at all, right? That's like a couple games where he played like 7-8 snaps, whatever. In 2023, he played 47 snaps. He was only eligible to get graded. So out of those 47 snaps, he played at least 20 versus Texas Tech, which made him eligible to get a grade in the deep dig. And in that game, he had an unacceptable score of 73.64. That was the second lowest graded performance of the entire season out of 67 total performances that I graded. So the second worst. So on those 47 snaps, 4 run stuffs, caused a penalty, so allowed disruption once for every 9.4 snaps. That was a number that if you just put it on the historical context chart, it would be the absolute worst. If he did that over the course of a season, it would be the worst season ever by a Texas Longhorn player in the history of the deep dig. So and the deep dig has done 83 different players who've done at least 100 snaps at Texas. He would be number 84. For that season. But again, it's a small sample size. Then coming into the 2024 spring game, struggled really badly. He only played 23 snaps. And in that game, listen to this, Cody, 23 snaps, allowed 2 TFLs, 1 run stuff, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 sack in the spring game. And that wasn't against Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat.
It was against Alfred Collins.
Alfred Collins only played 1 play in that game, didn't he? He had a pick 6 and got out.
Good point. And Vernon Broughton was getting married. Which I'm reminded of every single time I think of the spring game.
So if you that's all really bad, right? That's all like, oh gosh, so what are we dealing with here? Now we turn to 2024. Okay. During the actual season, we finally started to see him play well. So
Yeah.
only 71 snaps, right? But he did receive grades in two games, Colorado State and ULM. Okay. Versus ULM, he graded out with a 79.81 versus Colorado State a 77.36. So if you were to tell me that I could get that level every game out of Neto next year and nothing any better, I'd say give it to me. I'd say I'll take that every single day. That would represent a giant improvement over what we saw. And then what might be more promising is the snaps per disruption allowed. That number rose from 9.4 to 23.67. So historically, that doesn't put him in it doesn't put him in an elite tier,
Yeah.
but it puts him like just under the top 50% of players since 2013. So maybe a tiny bit below average as far as the disruption that he allowed last season, but not that far below. And it's so he was at 23.67. Again, small sample, 71 snaps, but DJ Campbell played like 700 snaps or whatever. His baseline last year was 24.8 snaps per disruption allowed. So 23.67, 24.8, 6 of one, half dozen. It's like it's pretty kind of DJ Campbell like, but again, very small sample. If he can just play like that, like he played on the small sample in 2024 and look nothing like he did in 2022 or 2023, then I'd say the worries with him get completely wiped away. Do you agree with that analysis?
I agree 100%. I'm also like, I've been digging, once you've been talking, I've been kind of digging through some old posts to kind of just see. He doesn't post a lot on social media, but he posted a recent picture 3 days ago with Nick Brooks and Ethan Burke. He's obviously short. He doesn't look like he's 6'4", which he's listed at, but he looks like he's in much better shape than, not to say he's been out of shape, but he's kind of had a little bit of that, little
Kind
bit
of
of that,
plumpy.
little bit of that Bill Norton belly to him, right? He looks leaner here, and he's been formally listed. I think it was 330 was what I just saw a second ago. So if he's comes in at like a 310, 315, and he's in a different shape, and he's a little quicker, 6'4", 330 was what he was listed at. Listen, man, I'm on board, and like I said, I'm going to believe in anything that Kyle Flood's pushing our way, and I think Torrey Becton has been getting his flowers a lot lately, and I think he continues to deserve that as we've seen these guys continue to grow, and that's the direction I'm kind of going and believing in. I think all the numbers you've listed out have showed us he can play football, and I think we're not going to. The unfortunate thing is we're not going to even get that spring game to compare your last year's spring grade from the game and get like a full game of him. You know what I'm saying? Like a full game would be awesome, but hopefully you get a couple practices in that you actually get some. I don't know what you're gonna get, man, but I hope you get something good when you're there.
I'm gonna get something great at Texas Beef Traders. At any time I go in, I'm gonna get something amazing. And I'm gonna get. Do you know what I'm gonna get at Texas Beef Traders that you don't really get at any other meat shop? No other meat shop. Just like fellowship, just like a community, just a place to hang out and kind of be with. Like you make pretty fast friends at Texas Beef Traders. Now you get a little bit lubed up with some of the alcohol you'll be presented, but it's that's just Darren trying to make it fun, make it relaxed, and make it a fun experience for you to learn about these great farms, man, that are all less than 100 miles away from Texas Beef Traders, which is right there in the heart of Lakeway, right off of Loman's Crossing, 620 Loman's Crossing. It's right there in that shopping center by the HEB in Lakeway, right behind Flores Mexican Restaurant. You go in there, you just can't miss it. 3 different herds. One from Gatesville, one from the main one from Mason, Texas. That's the MTX beef that my family basically lives on. If we're not eating something that I killed, we are eating, and we're not eating like chicken. We're eating Texas. That truly, like all we're eating is Texas Beef Traders. They have that big a selection, and it's not just the meats that you get 10% off of whenever you go there. By the way, you listening to this, like whoever wants it, you can get it, and you can get it every single time that you go in. This is meat that when you get that 10% off, it's going to be as cheap or cheaper than the grocery store, but no vaccines, no antibiotics, no steroids, no weird shots, no commingling with other herds. These herds have been together for 2,500 years. Nothing ever intermingled with them. Proprietary genetics, Michelin star restaurants depend on this meat. And the reason they do is because it's delicious and it's clean and it's good for you. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. Make sure and check them out. Tell Darren that we sent you. And again, just go in. I dare you. Take time Saturday, Friday night, whatever. Go into Texas Beef Traders, just say, Darren, man, Alex told me just to come in and tell you to give me the treatment and just see what happens. All right. Report back whenever you're going to have a great time. TexasBeefTraders.com. All right. And then the beef jerky is in. You sold us out of one flavor of jalapeno garlic, but hot honey, cowboy blend, and smoked garlic are all available right there with the QR code. And Tyler should have put the link in the description below to order your football with friends, tasty as hell beef jerky. Of course, from Texas Beef Traders, from that great Angus herd that I was talking about right in Mason, Texas. All right. What about Cole Hudson?
What about him?
Well, so interesting thing about Cole Hudson is that people forget that he came in and
they like him, obviously.
I'm projecting him to start out at center. I'd be flabbergasted and floored if they had Robertson or Daniel Cruz or something out there, at least for the first practice of the season. So
would you though? Would you really though?
Yeah.
If it was Daniel Cruz and Daniel Cruz, he had a big spring of weight training, you'd be.
I would be excited, but yeah, flabbergasted. I'd be like, whoa, okay, oh wow. I'd be looking around at the other reporters and be like, wow, and they'd be like, what are you saying wow about? I'm like, well, of course you don't know because you don't follow the team. But yes, I would be flabbergasted, excited. It would be one of the biggest stories I think of the spring. Then
the reason I bring it up, the reason I bring it up, period, is because I remember a year ago where Matthew Golden really wasn't at the forefront of the conversation, and Silas Bolden wasn't even on campus, but Silas Bolden was kind of penciled in as, for some people, as kind of like, man, he might be like the thing at receiver, right? So this year, the offensive line, shout out to Benny, man. We appreciate you. Benny, I mean, a real one. He's here. He's commenting. He's liking.
Benny, we don't care what you say in the comments.
He's part of the 7, 8, 9, tens of thousands of people that tap in every single night. So Benny, we really appreciate it.
But just thank you for being here, Benny. If you could please just like the show and subscribe to the channel, just help some poor dudes out, man. Like we're hard up. We're hard to listen to. We can use all the help that we can get, brother. So yeah, please click to like the show and subscribe to the channel. With Cole Hudson, so he came in and yes, I would be shocked.
So I want to ask you, the reason I brought this up, and the reason I asked that question was because, like I said, a year ago, nobody thought Matthew Golden was going to be anything really, like, for what he was. Like, they thought he was going to be good, but not what he was. Silas Bolden, the inverse. People thought he might be the lead. He ends up whatever. This year, the bigger question, there's still a question of receiver, but there's a big question on this offensive line thing. And I guess one thing that just kind of goes through my mind, and I like to think through a lot of these things, it's why we do this show, it's why we talk about it, is, what if Daniel Cruz potentially, and I guess you could say Connor Robertson too, but mostly my brain goes to Daniel Cruz just because of, his build and his ability. And it's just got done with his first year in the program. What if he's a guy that matured and put on 10 good pounds, and he's had this connection with Arch for the last year? Who knows? I'm just hypothetically in here. And he comes in and he's the center, and then you have a Cole Hudson that's actually competing with a Campbell and competing with Neto and trying to be like the pseudo swing guard type of a situation, and giving you that real depth. That would unlock another layer to this offensive line's growth.
It would be fantastic. Yeah, it would be fantastic. I'm not sure that Cruz is there yet, but it would be.
We don't know. That's why I'm opening the door.
It would be a fantastic revelation. It would be awesome. right? It would be great for Texas. It would be it would be great to be able to like report on that. I think that people would be really excited about one of these young offensive linemen really stepping up, and I think it would be yeah, I think it would be really really good. But with Cole Hudson, you got to remember that like starting, dude, he came in and he started in 2022, right? He played 705 snaps. He started over DJ Campbell. He played 705 snaps in 2022. Campbell played 105. In 2023, Campbell took over. He outsnapped Hudson 688 to 118. Then in 2024, we all saw what happened. The split was they split up reps, right? But it's still pretty heavily favored Campbell. So he had 571. Hudson definitely played a lot. He played pretty prominently. You remember seeing him coming in. He played 249 snaps, so 571 to 249. That's what, close to a 2/3, 1/3 kind of split. A little bit. I mean, maybe it's closer to 75-25. But prominent, much more prominent than we've seen anybody kind of mix in as far as the offensive line. They don't like to take guys in and mess with that stuff. But this year, just like that's what Kyle Flood made a specific effort to do. So it's if you look at the 3 seasons, Hudson, his snaps per disruption allowed numbers, they've gone from allowing disruption once every 17.4 snaps. That was in 2022. That would have been 9th worst on record of the 83 players in the Deep Dig database. He went to 29.5 snaps per disruption allowed in 2023. That would have been the 40th best on record of 83 total. And then this last year, his worst year yet, down to 15.56. And that would have been 5th worst on record out of 83 total, dating back to 2013 when I started doing this. So total roller coaster. Makes it tough to say where he's headed. Obviously a concern. But on the other side, he's the second most experienced player, right? And when you lose a guy like Jake Majors, who was the one who was the football cyborg, the one who knew all the calls, smart as can be, got the protections in, called out the numbers in the zone blocking game. I think having an experienced guy in there is just going to be important, at least to start out spring ball. That's why I said it's just starting out. That's why I would be shocked and flummoxed if it was Daniel Cruz. I think that they'll want some veteran stuff out there, but I would not be shocked and flummoxed if it was, we hear like 7 practices into spring that, hey, Daniel Cruz has been looking good. And what they've been doing is it's been kind of Cole Hudson and Neto rotating in at left. At left guard. Like I think it's more than feasible, but that's just how that's how I see it, and that's why Neto Umeozulu, Cole Hudson, and then finally Brandon Baker is the third one, and obviously he's the most exciting to consider, right?
Reportedly an 83-inch wingspan, like it's exactly what Kelvin Banks. It's kind of the right side Kelvin Banks of kind of what your hope is, given what he was as a prospect. So, if he's not the answer, I think there's questions that are raised, and this is the one spot that I think if you find out through the spring he's not quite ready, which I fully believe he will be, then you may have a problem. Whereas I think if it's an interior situation, you can take care of it with sort of what's on the roster. And like I said, what we just talked about with a Cruz or Robertson potentially growing, and then you move Hudson around, do something like this. But at the right tackle position, if he's not ready, I think you have a much bigger problem, because I'm not sure who believes
you got all your eggs in this kind of in this Andre Kojo basket. If it's not Brandon Baker,
which I'm not sure that's where you want to be standing, but
Kojo could have gotten better though, because remember he came into the program at age like 16 or something. He was super, super duper young.
And a year ago, right now, we weren't talking about Trevor Goosby.
No. Well, a year ago, a year ago, a week from now, we were, because I came back from that first practice and I was like, ooh, Trevor Goosby looks good.
But that
right?
wasn't a year ago right now, right? That wasn't going into spring camp. That was at spring camp.
Right. No, after the first spring camp, I had 3 big takeaways, and one was that Trevor Gooseby looks really good.
Correct. But I'm saying we're a literal week away from spring camp, and we don't know what Kojo is. A week before last year's camp, we didn't know who Gooseby was. You
Oh, at
showed
this
up.
exact time, right? At this
Yes, you
exact
showed up last year and you saw who Gooseby was, and you're like, oh, okay, right. What I'm saying is, you could do that, and it could be Kojo this time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen neither hide nor hair of any of these guys ever since they stopped, playing football. The Brandon Baker last year. Hey, I'm going to start using that hide nor hair thing.
Fred,
That's a real grandpa.
I'm putting Andre Kojo and Freddie Dubose right now in the hide nor hair list.
Freddie DuBose, yeah, the hide nor hair milk carton.
Oh gosh.
So 60 snaps in 2024. He allowed 1 run stuff and 1 TFL. Did Brandon Baker. So snaps per disruption, obviously 30. That's good. If you did that over the course of the season, like we're cooking with grease. And this is your $1 million 5-star. This is your super stud. This is an elite prospect. Excellent feet, great strength. Just a pure, balanced guy. Can move people, good kick slide, just natural athlete, right? It's time for him to go, dude. It's time for him to go. So he's up, man.
This is when they go. If they don't come in on day one and be a Kelvin Banks, it's, you got to do it the second year. The second year, if you're a 5-star, this is when the expectation comes alive. And especially if you're not a left tackle. I mean, left tackle, I should say, especially if you're a left tackle, and specifically, second year is definitely the one where it's like, all right, you better wake up if you're a 5-star left tackle. In turn, he's going to play right. I expect kind of the same thing though from a 5-star coming from Mater Dei. Like, that's baseline. We haven't seen a ton of him play football. You have at practice and stuff, so I'll lean on you for that. But as far as expectation goes, I believe in that. The guy behind him, Andre Kojo, we talked about a second ago. He was a guy that was once listed at 358 on his recruiting website. And now on the Texas website, he's 340. And that was from this past season. And if you go look up the training footage or the training pictures of Kojo in particular, all these guys on their Instagrams, if you go scroll through all of them, they all got the team pictures from doing their sprints on the field and stuff. And Kojo looks like he might have lost even some more weight. So, we'll see what happens. I'm very intrigued, though, on the 3 guys you listed: Brandon Baker, Cole Hudson, Neto Umeozulu, and even the guys behind him in the Daniel Cruzes and the Andre Kojos of the world.
Yeah, Kojo. I mean, he's clearly important too. It's like I don't, I believe the stuff about Nick Brooks coming in and looking really good, but is your freshman that has maybe had a little bit of an early kind of body transformation and looks like he's in really good shape compared to what he sort of looked like in high school. Is that guy coming in and he's automatically your swing tackle? It's like, it's pretty tough, dude. So Kojo, obviously super important. And I agree with the crew. Look, I agree with the crew stuff. I could see it happening. The thing that would just have me the thing that would just have my mind twisted would be to go out and have it be anything to start than those 5. And I think that protecting Arch in his first year as an SEC starter is just of such paramount importance that it could be that he's Arch is like the tide that lifts all boats, man. He could be he could be a talent elevator, and we've seen that. That's not that. And Cody, a quarterback that doesn't only go for the receivers and stuff like that. You can put your offensive line in better positions by not walking into sacks and, you know what I'm saying, not getting to the correct depth and all kind of. There were things last year where, like, sacks that you would think that the offensive line gave up, but man, if you watched it back, that you'd be like, dude, that was Quinn.
I think you could also look at some guys that he's going to be comped to. Arch Manning is going to be comped to as he gets through the process and goes to the draft. And Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow, who are elevators that got killed by offensive line play that was not to the level it needed to be.
Oh, please don't.
This is why we're emphasizing an entire
Or
show
invoke Andrew Luck.
how important. Well, that's going to be one of the comps. You
It's going to
know
be
it. You
oh,
know it.
oh yeah. This once in a lifetime kind of golden boy
Yeah.
who can also run and who tests as athlete. Can you believe that Andrew Luck, if you put his combine testing up next to Cam Newton's, and
That doesn't make sense.
yeah, and Arch is probably going to test like that. And like we say, like Arch is not the one to worry about. The thing that you need to worry about most is overpaying for your liquor, your wine, your fine spirits, your finer foods. You guys got to get into Specs.
At Specs, it doesn't cost a lot to turn a good time into a great time, especially if you like saving money. From connoisseur collectors to aficionados of ale, you'll find bubbly bliss at any budget with a Texas-sized selection of world-class wines, rare spirits, craft beers, and more. So when you're getting ready for a good time, Specs is ready to make it great. Because at Specs, the fun starts here.
Shout Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you.
All right, it's Football with Friends here on Orange Bloods Live. I got to ask the chat, man. Can you guys tell us, just with that commercial fresh on your mind, something's been killing me. Did that on y'all's end cut off just a tiny bit early? Because I've noticed it.
AKA in the middle of the sentence.
Yeah, did that cut off a little bit early? Because if so, we might need to lengthen out the Specs ad, because we want to make sure that thing doesn't cut off. Because Specs is, of course, our great partner with getting close to 500 of you guys here in the Specs chat line. That would not be possible without the guys at Specs being such great partners. And I want to make sure that is going off well. But I noticed something weird with it, I think, in the modcast earlier today. Yep. So Money B saying it did cut off. So we need to look into that and make a note.
Get it stretched. We'll just have to put it in the OB chat, see if we can get it stretched a little bit, and it won't be too hard of an edit. Speaking of Money B, he put a chat in here because we were talking about offensive line play. I want to keep it for just a second. He says we need at least 8 linemen ready to go for the season. So 2-part, I'm going to push to you, Alex. 1, do you agree with this? And 2, can we name 8 guys today going into spring that you may put on that list? Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I think you're better off with 10 ready to go.
So Gooseby, Nato, Hudson, Campbell, Baker. That's your starting 5, and then your next 3 would have to be.
I would bet the mortgage on it.
Okay, and your next 3 would have to be. Robertson.
No.
What? Well, I mean, he has to be pseudo for center. He has to be one of your.
If I get down to Connor Robertson, man, I'm gonna throw Daniel Cruz out there.
Okay. See, that's the thing. I would have put Robertson up there just because of the,
I gotta see what Nick Brooks looks like in person, and hopefully I will this time next week. We'll be on the show and I'll be able to talk about that and pro day and everything else. But
you're going to tackle route. I see where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kojo
and Brooks. I see where you're going.
Yeah, and then
one interior guy.
Is it Chapman?
I don't know. He's the one we haven't talked about. Him and Kibble.
Well, sorry. So the interesting thing about Kibble is that the growth and development that we heard about from Nate Kibble didn't happen until it didn't happen until like during the actual in season, where in season we don't cover practices, we don't report on practices or anything unless there was something we hear that like some dude's getting starting reps or some dude got hurt or something like that. And that's for a couple reasons. 1, we're into the in-season content schedule. 2, people don't want practice reports from in season during the game week. 3, we would lose every source that we had if we gave in-season practice reports, because they're like, we're not going to give away a competitive advantage on a game week. We're not going to tell you guys what's going on at practice. And 5, I don't think our readers would want us doing that, like putting the team at a competitive disadvantage by talking about everything that's going on at practice. But what we did here, just in kind of catching up with sources around the program, just in aggregate over the course of many practices, was that Nate Kibble was a guy that was coming along nicely. And that wasn't necessarily – I don't remember anything about Nate Kibble from fall. It's like he's a total third-team backup. So or he might have been a little bit banged up even. So I hate to say it, but I don't have any data on Nate Kibble. I don't have much eyeball test stuff on Nate Kibble, so I just don't know. But a lot more on Chapman. And, I don't know his weight, though. Does he weigh more finally by now?
Chapman?
Yeah.
Where did he go?
Is he like 305 or something, or 310?
Why isn't his Texas plate showing up? There it is. Jaden Chapman is currently listed at 300.
Oh, okay. And he might be, that could be a little bit of a kind of put a couple Dasani waters in your pocket and go step on the scale. Not a case of them, but maybe just one in each pocket. We'll see how that changes. I think probably is of all the remaining guys I've seen, I think he's probably got the best feet.
Kibble does? Or no, sorry, Chapman does?
Chapman of all the remaining guys. Yeah. He's got better feet than Andre. Certainly got better feet than like Stroh and Kojo. I don't know about Brooks.
Okay, so you're going with your 8 being the starting 5 that we're expecting, plus Brooks, Kojo, and then you would go.
I would pencil in Brooks, but I'm not sure if I'm buying. I'm not sure if I'm completely buying it.
It's not about what you believe is going to happen. It's what you need. What we need is 8. You believe in that, and you would say if 8, who would be the 8? You need Brooks.
You need it to be Brooks. You need to be Kojo, and then you need it to be one of Chapman, Kibble, or Cruz.
Fair, and that's Robertson's your pseudo 9th.
Or Robertson. It's fine if he wants to be Robert. It's just Robertson. You just look at what he's done, and man,
he's kind of your Hayden Connor. He's like, well, you couldn't beat him out. Like, that's kind of your. But it's a pseudo veteran.
And dude, it might be a little bit unfair, but I have that 2023 Oklahoma game just tattooed on the back of my eyeballs, and that whenever Majors got hurt early on. And that was a very, very, very rough game for Connor Robertson. I know it's been a year and a half since then, so it's probably not fair. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, he has the seniority on Daniel Cruz. I just know that Daniel Cruz, whenever he came in, there was an SEC scouting director, a high school scouting director, that told me in the state of Texas, he was in his year. He said he's not the best offensive lineman, but he's the most sure thing to come in and just be solid. So I've kind of held on to that in my back pocket for a while and thought that was, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I would say to Money B. Vivek B in the chat is asking, do we know how good Neto is? He hasn't played up to his rankings yet. Well, I think Vivek B might have got to the show a little bit late. But if you want to just go back to the very beginning, we've gone over his whole the expectations and kind of what his career trajectory's been. And yeah, he didn't ever play up to his rankings yet. In the limited number of snaps last season, he began to show signs like maybe he would. And that's the one little twinkle of light that we have, on the little pulse machine that's saying that there could be, some signal here for a 2025 breakout.
Alex, you know what I haven't gotten to do in a little bit because it's been the off season, so we haven't had in-season deep dig conversations. I haven't been able to pull up the Cockamamie PFF.
What does the Cockamamie PFF say?
So I put no limits on this, and I go to guard, and I go to the SEC. So all SEC offensive linemen last year, guards, no mins. So it brings in Neto into the conversation. And I sort by PFF run blocking grade. Now make note, they have 81 snaps accounted for with Neto. 65 of those 81 are run blocking grades. That's why I'm sorting by run blocking grade.
65 of 81 was because he came in at the end of games. And also they have him with 81 snaps, so they're counting some of his special team snaps too, or some of the penalty snaps.
Which we know is Cockamamie and what they like to do.
Yeah.
So amongst all of the SEC, there's 57 qualifiers on this list. He's the 11th ranked guard.
Whoa. Wow.
In run blocking. Overall, He's the 9th ranked guard, 2 spots behind Hayden Connor. And among run blocking, he's the best Texas guard in run blocking.
What about DJ Campbell?
DJ Campbell had a okay. Where's DJ Campbell? So Neto had a 71.6. DJ had a 66.5. He was ranked 20th in run blocking at guard. Hayden Connor was a 65.9. He was 23rd at guard. And then Cole Hudson was 63.3. He was 30th at guard.
They were knocking Hayden Connor for those outside zone runs to the left. They weren't as bad in 2024 as they were in 2023, but that's what they were knocking him for. What
that was interesting.
Do they have anything? Do they have anything on like Jaden Chapman?
I'm just gonna bring up all
because he played both tackle and guard in reserve time last year.
So they have Chapman, 67.6 run blocking, 32 snaps, 27 run blocking snaps, 67.6 puts him just a notch ahead of DJ Campbell. But again, 32 total snaps. Kojo, 67.8, 30 run snaps. That's in run blocking.
Can you add centers in and see where they had Connor Robertson?
Connor Robertson, the 3rd best run blocking offensive lineman on the roster, behind Neto Umeozulu, and then it's a 10-point jump to Kelvin Banks.
A 10 points up.
It's 81.0 run blocking grade for Kelvin Banks, 10-point drop down to Neto, then Connor Robertson, then Cam Williams, 3-point drop down to Jake Majors, Kojo, Chapman, then DJ Campbell, then Connor, then Baker, then Hudson, then Gooseby.
We've gotten to the PFF section of the show. I've had enough. I'm calling it now. You can email us fwfemails@gmail.com. You can find us on X at Cody Carpentier. I'm at Alex Dunlap NFL. The Football with Friends handle is at FWF_OB. Of course, you can follow Orange Bloods on X too at Orange Bloods, then an underscore. You can find all of our content over at orangebloods.com. Read the column that I was talking about today. We'll probably go over some of Cody's behind enemy line stuff tomorrow here on the show. Just 4 things every night that we ask you guys, man. If you could please like the show and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out so much more than you would know to just click like and to subscribe to the channel. It helps people to find the show, and we want to continue doing it. But in order to be able to continue doing it, we need to grow it, and we need to be able to get sponsors, and we need to be able to make it worth everybody's while, right? And so if you enjoy this and you like us putting in the time to do this every single night, 6 to 7 p.m., just please like the show and subscribe to the channel. If you have friends that you think might like the show, whether they're Longhorns fans, SEC, NFL draft, a lot of Longhorn talk today, a lot of offensive line talk today, but you never know what you're going to get around here. So if they're into this kind of stuff, let them know that they won't get any hot basketball tips, but they'll get a lot of other stuff, okay? And then most importantly, if you're here and you like the show, just come back. Come hang with us, man. Be part of the Football with Friends fan, all right? We're here every night, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. And we love you guys, man. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys being here. So thank you. God bless you. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.